remember Matt buying a pedal in Japan, and he bought 2 of them, and they were hand built by somebody. I think it was Fuzz Factory or something like that. And he came upstairs really excited after, like, you know, being downstairs in the shop. And he goes, "You wouldn't believe it, I've just found this pedal and it makes everything sound broken." It just made this most horrendous noise that, like, you know, like, so he bought 2 of them. So everything sounded double broken. Like, you know, it was, you know, it was absolutely phenomenal. And he turned it into part of his sound, and he got something out of it that, you know, like no one else would, you know, no one else would even consider. I mean, like,
the influence of Muse on new and young bands is amazing. I get sent demos every day, and you can tell they've taken something from the Muse sound and they've incorporated it into their own. Very influential. That's, if you like, where the only comparison with Radiohead should be. The fact that they've done this, they've had this effect on new music.
What I like is every gig they play this, like, they have a set like song list, but then each song changes every time. They don't just play the same structure. There's always little bits being changed and riffs being changed slightly. The ending's always different. What actually happens on stage is different.
It's just a case of development of ideas all the time. It was like, you know, and suddenly you turn up. I remember when we were in Japan, and he suddenly turned up at the first show. It was like, right, we're doing everything differently now. Right, everything's going to change. Right, I've got this idea. So, right, what's the idea? He goes, what I want to do, I want to come on, and the first 6 songs are going to be acoustic. Right, and we're going to sit there on chairs and we're going to play through these, and this is going to include Unintended and, you know, other such tracks and acoustic versions of a few others. Right, and then we're going to go off stage, and you're going to have 3 minutes and 20 seconds, which is the length of this track by Tom Waits called "What's He Building in There?" Right, and we're going to play this, and it's just this sort of clanking and all these noises and everything, like, you know, right. And we're going to play through this track, which is 3 minutes 20 seconds long, and all the light you're going to have on stage is just strobe. So you're going to be running around on stage there, right, with strobes, getting all the black off of the amps and this, that, and the other, and, like, you know, and you're basically going to prepare the stage for us, and then we're going to run out with our guitars and we're going to turn it into a rock set. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, and so that was what became the Japanese shows, and we did it, and, like, you know, and it was absolute genius.
But no, they're always trying to bring something new into rock music instead of just playing your average, you know, Green Day or just punk rock or something like that. It's always like really, you know, either intricate bass line or amazing vocal range or whatever. It's just all different. It's all fresh.
Good drums make it.
Technical
drums
as well.
Yeah.
The actual way. When you've got Hysteria, you've got some, instead of just having your simple bass line, your simple drums, then complex guitar line, you've got complex vocal line, complex guitar line being played simultaneously, as well as complex bass line and sort of just kick-ass drum beat.
Yeah.
I think each member of Muse has their own creative input to the overall sound, but importantly they know how to work together, they know how to work with each other's sound, with each other's instruments, to interlink with everything else.
So they're talented musicians, they show it all at the same time, but they all connect properly.
It was a spirit that when they got together, you know, and you don't see it amongst many bands. You see a lot of bands, and to be honest with you, you could take any one of those people in that band and replace them with someone else, and they would be able to, you know, they would be able to play exactly the same songs, and you wouldn't notice the difference. Whereas if you took a band like Muse and you took any one of those members out of that band, you would no longer have Muse. You know, all 3 of them are an integral part of that band.
In December 2003, the single Hysteria was released, which at the time charted at number 17. A very good end to the year for Muse. Over the past 10 years, Muse have built up a very strong following of fans and record labels, resulting in considerable worldwide recognition. They've influenced many young musicians and even have a tribute band called Bemused from Peterborough.
I came up with the idea just because it was kind of the reason I started playing guitar, really. I grew to like Muse over the years, and then downloaded live videos and stuff and saw them, and I was like, wow, I really want to do that. So I picked up my mate's guitar, I looked after it for a week when he went on holiday, and kind of got a real good feel for it instantly. and I just learnt a few Muse songs, and then I really loved playing it. So I got myself my own guitar and my own amp for my birthday about a year and a bit ago. Just been playing every day since then, just learning more songs and stuff. And then I found these guys and said, "Do you want to do this tribute band thing?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure."
Ever since I joined this Muse band and learning how to play Dom style, but right-handed because he's left-handed, it's changed my drumming ability.
Yeah, your drum style.
Yeah, it's totally changed because it's like added to the one I already had, and the stuff I've learnt over the years. I used to just sit at home and play my drums and play the same old licks over and over again. It just get kind of boring.
Yeah. I still do that.
Inevitably, they're going to have a phenomenal influence. I think Muse have come from what people saw as possibly a second-rate Radiohead band into possibly one of the most influential rock bands of their generation. Like certainly from a UK point of view.
I'm sure a lot of up-and-coming bands would look at them as real inspiration. They come from a small seaside town in Devon, and they've just done so phenomenally well for themselves. I'm sure they're a big influence to a lot of local groups.
In England, a lot of kids are asking to learn how to play your songs in music lessons. How do you feel about that?
Slightly embarrassed, I think. Yeah, there you go.
A classic example of this to me is they do a fantastic version of a Billie Holiday track, Feeling Good, I believe. That blew me away the first time I saw it, and it blew me away, and it's the way, the passion in the breakdown and just the way they do it. And I've now been out and I've seen smaller bands covering that song in Muse's style because they almost think it's a Muse song. And yet, it's a classic jazz song. So, obviously, they've influenced people drastically.
February 2004 was the 10th anniversary for Muse. They spent it on tour in Japan and various other countries. Their hard-working approach and constant support of their albums have played a large part in their achievements and worldwide success.
Yeah, I'd say I was touring with them in sort of the showbiz period, but as I say, it was towards the end of it. They'd already been touring it a good year before I came into it. And I think, in a way, one of the reasons why they worked as a band successfully was because they were willing to tour. And they toured that album for 2 years. They took the American ethic towards touring. A lot of English bands here don't take that ethic to touring. They'll tour for like 4 months and then, as someone once said to me, they'll live in magazines, right? And they'll let the magazines do the work for them, whereas Muse were doing both. They were doing all the magazine interviews, but they were still touring. They were building a reputation for themselves as a live band. And that was what made them stood out amongst the crowd.
They just surprise you every time. The music gets bigger, better and more distinctly Muse-like all the time, although you can't define what that is. That is a sign of a great band.
Muse are just so adaptable, and they just work so hard at what they do, and they're so committed to their fans as well that it just means that there will be this reciprocal thing forevermore where they will give to their fans and their fans will give to them.
Unfortunately, 2004 proved to be a bit of a problem for the band due to accidents and personal tragedy.
They've had some terrible luck this year, what with, Dom's dad dying, Chris breaking his hand, Matt totaling his face on the guitar, But I think, if they can stay out of trouble like that, they will become one of the biggest bands. I hope they do. They deserve it,
However, they still went on to win Best British Rock Act at the Brit Awards and the Best Live Act at the Q Awards. By the end of the year, they had also added an MTV award in Rome for Best Alternative Act, as well as a final gong for Best Act in the UK and Ireland. A perfect end to a not-so-perfect year.
It's cool, it's cool for us because this is it's the biggest thing, isn't it? It's the biggest kind of awards, music celebration, I guess, in the UK, so it kind of feels good to be a part of it, and it's nice to actually play here as well, but it's something, your mum watches on TV.
There you go.
It's for the mums. She becomes very proud of you after this.
Muse.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Do you expect to win?